Welcome, Laura, to our first Ask Us Anything. And I've been fascinated by your journey. Just you basically halved your body weight. This
Yes.
photo is insane, and everybody wants to know how you did it. So, we can start by tell us a bit about Laura. Who's Laura? Where are you from? Then we can get into the grilling to get all the details
Well,
on how you did it.
the I started in about 2012 when I was, I guess, at my highest weight, about 312 was probably the highest that I know of for sure. And
And we've got these crazy photos from starting
right,
2012 to 2024.
right. And uh, I was denied bariatric surgery in
Wow.
2012. After doing the 6 month classes, everything, they told me I wasn't a good candidate.
Wow. Why is that?
So,
You, you,
um, at that point, I was just trying to find anything that would, and so I was desperate. I mean, isn't that where you get whenever you hit rock bottom, whatever, you just get desperate. You do.
wow.
You want so bad to be somewhere else or in
Wow.
somebody else's body. And how do you get there when you
Hmm.
can barely move? I mean, serious, you're in so much pain, you can barely do any of it. You can't think clearly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 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 horrible. I mean, that's awful. Where I started, I was miserable.
Mm. And that misery, you just went, why? How do I get out of this body? How do I suppose that was one of the questions we had from Mike Fitzpatrick, who we're going to be interviewing in a couple of weeks. But he said, I'd like to ask her what the spark was that got us started on the path for her to get healthy. So, what was it that went, I need this, I can do this? How did you believe that you could become a different person?
You know, it didn't happen right away. I think I pretty much gave up for a while, and then I just started looking again, and I found, it's sometime in 2013 I found Trim Healthy Mama and started doing that type of thing and uh, following them, baby steps. I had already done, prior to all of that, I had already done Weight Watcher stuff to some degree, and I had already done keto at least twice.
Yep.
And, at one point I had done keto and gotten to a decent weight, but then it all came back.
Yeah, wow.
So
It's
it
all too
was,
common story, unfortunately. Or people make a lot of progress and then stall out and go, where do I go here? How do I keep tweaking it?
and then, I found Trim Healthy Mama. I followed the principles, did all the things, and I started out just very drive-through Sue stuff. I mean, rotisserie chickens, anything and
Yep.
everything that was easy enough because I really mentally couldn't wrap my head around anything. And I mean, I wouldn't believe that, I was going to get where I am now. There's just, yeah.
Wow.
And
I feel so much passion in your voice. And yeah, it's interesting. Like you said, the cognitive thing, it's not just the physical. We see so many people come into the community and they're just, I'm confused. I can't concentrate. I'm really struggling to get all this stuff because their brain isn't quite working. And as their blood sugars improve, their weight comes down. They're just a different person. That's another thing I love so much about all this. They change how they think and feel about themselves, and they can actually think so much more clearly.
right, the inflammation, it affects the brain and everything
Wow,
else too. So,
it's crazy.
um, I did Trim Healthy Mama, gosh, since 2013. And within a couple of years, I had already lost, 65 pounds or so. But after that, I just stalled. And that's where I was up until I found um, optimizing nutrition and data-driven fasting.
Yeah, you said I was stuck at 225 for the last 7 years until I found DDF. I've lost 47. kilo, 47 pounds since April. My mind just blown. I've got to buy a new wardrobe, which is I love all these. It was really fun to go back through all that chat. I can't believe how well it's working for weight loss. Thanks to Laurie and using my eating to the meter and using the DDF app is really changing your life. So tell us about that story of going, okay, going from, yeah, I learned a bunch, I made progress. You must have been really frustrated and then stalling out for 7 years. What was it like making that transition to just going, I'm going to use my glucose meter as a fuel gauge?
Well, and I didn't start when Lori first introduced me to that. It was way before we did Marco Polo and stuff. It was before that. She reached out to me and we even talked on the phone stuff.
She's
And
so caring
I
to try
just
and get
kind of thought
everybody in,
she
isn't
was
she?
just, she's like, she was very passionate about using the glucose meter and everything. And I'm like, my glucose is fine. My A1C is in the fours. I mean, my doctors tell me that, they don't even see people with glucose where mine is.
Yep,
They won't even test my A1C and stuff hardly, very much.
because it's
And
okay.
they're like, they won't even test it, but every few years because it's so low that,
Mm,
they just don't see that. And so I just kind of like ignored her for a little bit, I guess. Unfortunately, I should have just gone ahead and did it. But then I'm like, well, I am stuck. I'm truly stuck. And if she says this will work, then, you know, I already had the equipment because my husband's type
yep.
2 diabetic. We already had all these supplies. And I'm like, what's it gonna hurt, you know?
Yeah, that was like me. My wife and my son are type 1, so we got little glucose meters hanging around. I can't. It's yeah, there we go. Um, around the house, and it's like easy to test and try myself. And you don't whether you start with really high glucose numbers or low, normal, healthy numbers, the process still works, doesn't it?
I couldn't believe I was basically using the DDF app prior to even doing the challenges. I couldn't believe how well it was working. It was almost too easy. It
I've
blew my mind,
got
really.
this chart of your weight loss. It's just insane. And every month we did a challenge, you were up there at the top of the leaderboard. It was like crazy that you just kept on at it. You must have really, really wanted to change your life.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it exciting once the ball started rolling? I'm actually tearing up here, but must have been exciting as the ball started rolling. I
It
finally
was
made a breakthrough, and I've got a simple method to guide my weight loss.
every time I would get on the scale and it would be lower, I was just like, wow,
What is this
wow.
magic?
After being installed for so long and nothing working, absolutely nothing working, and then all of a sudden you'd get on the scale again and it would be down more, and you're like, what? I was not even exercising, just household stuff. I
Yep.
wasn't doing any of that. I was just doing the testing and eating, and I was still eating my 3 meals a day. I was just changing up, what, and the the protein really made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got your perfect day report here that we did when we did our macros masterclass. And interestingly, you were, yeah, you must have really understood the protein because you started at 42% protein and wound that up to 46% protein, still while getting a solid amount of energy. It's nice to see people getting, 1,400 calories and losing weight. And then later on, you got, I think you built a bit more muscle, you were being more active, you were in the gym, and your protein percentage actually went down and your energy went up. So that actually really excites me when I see, especially older females, not that you're that old, but being able to eat more and more while still losing weight because they're active and they've got that lean muscle mass. They're building muscle, building strength, which is what it's the metabolic furnace that burns all the energy.
So, Marty, we've got a couple of questions.
Yeah,
Can
sure,
I
let's do
throw
it.
those in here?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
Laura Judy's asking, how does it work if you don't have, or maybe she's asking you, Marty, but how does it work if you don't have glucose issues?
Yeah, I suppose I can cover that. But wherever you start, your glucose is your instantaneous fuel gauge. So if you start at raging diabetic at 300 milligrams per deciliter, if you chase a lower pre-meal glucose, you are just waiting enough to be draining glucose and then body fat. But it's the same when your glucose is, 80. If you just chase a slightly lower glucose number, you're still going to be waiting enough to be burning the body fat in your body. So whether you start high or low, it doesn't really matter. The DDF app will tune your trigger to your current metabolism and guide you to go down slowly from there. That's a really good question.
And Laura, Harry's asking, I think this one's for you. Did you have to deal with much DDF driven hunger while waiting for your trigger? It sounds like you never delayed eating based on
Good
your
question.
description and instead just changed what you ate. True?
Well, it really changed. What changed was the amount of protein.
Yeah.
The amount of protein, after I started getting the larger amount of protein, my hunger,
Went away.
it did things to my brain that I had never felt before. I didn't want to keep eating. I didn't want to eat in the evenings. I ate enough for protein for breakfast and lunch and dinner time. Once I ate protein, it was like, oh, I don't know if I can even eat anymore.
Mm,
It was, yeah, it was really a change when it was like something like the light switch was flipped on to like my metabolism. And
yep.
then,
Yep.
yeah, it was different.
And you started to build more muscle and you're actually burning more energy because you've got a bigger metabolic furnace in your body. And yeah, the satiety effect, the serotonin effect, all the neurotransmitters are so dependent on getting enough protein. So then you feel like a different person. You think differently. Your GLP-1 and all those things that everybody talks about that we can jam into an injectable now, that naturally happens when we get the protein and nutrients we need. And yeah, it's magical. So yeah, DDF paired with adequate protein, protein focused, high protein percentage. Yeah, it just works
I,
so well.
I also want to interject that Laura does a lot of sardines. And I had never done sardines. Laura is the reason I have done sardines, but I do know that she uses sardines as one of her proteins a lot. And I know Lori and I have talked about this and, really thinking that because she does so many, that whole omega-3 thing may be part of what's clicked in
Hmm.
with some of the results that she certainly has seen. So,
Yeah, seafood is definitely
sardine challenge,
amazing and
Laura?
nutritious.
So I don't have access to fresh seafood and stuff. I'm in Missouri. We don't have that. I went to the store just today looking for what available options we had. It's either frozen or it's not looking so good in the seafood cage thing. It doesn't even smell good.
Yeah.
I'm not from Maine like Ren is, so I don't get the fresh stuff. But I did do oysters and eggs for breakfast with raw zucchini with salt. And for lunch, I tried mussels for the first time, and I couldn't believe how delicious they were. They were in, it was Patagonia, I think, brand, and it was in spicy mussels. And I couldn't, yeah, I will buy them again, and I think I'm going to put them in curry next time.
And
It's
that seafood,
fascinating.
I'm
Go
sorry,
right.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's fascinating when you have nutrients that you've been missing, something lights up in your brain. Like I was talking to a doctor, a local doctor who'd been like really strict carnivore for 3 years. And then he said, I had these mushrooms one time. I thought, mushrooms won't kill me. I'll try the mushrooms and it absolutely blew his brain. They tasted so good. It's like the body says, this is what I needed. This is really what I needed. I've actually got your Everybody's probably wondering, what did she eat with all this protein? I've got your perfect day report here that we did, the
That's
most
great
recent
because
one.
that was the question Judy was asking. What protein did you mix fatty and non-fatty? So
Yeah, so
good
she's
timing, Marty.
the report said bump up your, she was eating wild planet anchovies in olive oil. And the report said that's great. Eat more of those. Okra said more of those. Eggs. So this is sorted by the calorie intake: Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, grass milk. Um, there's a protein powder in there. So they're the major calorie sources. But there's a wide range of healthy, higher protein percentage, nutrient dense foods. And what the satiety algorithm will do, it'll take what you're currently eating and then rearrange it to push, in this case, her satiety score went from 72 to 87% with that perfect day report. So that's what we do in the macros masterclass and then further in the micros masterclass. But her overall protein more recently was actually a little bit lower at 39%, which is great, especially if you're a bit more active and you got a bit more muscle.
Laura, can you talk a little bit about how you eat your sardines? Or someone was asking. I happen to know the answer, but go ahead. You have
By
some special.
mouth?
No, 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 no. Come on.
I eat them in lots of different ways.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, sometimes I go to the grocer and open the can and drain it in the parking lot and eat them out of the can because it's easy
Yep.
and it's protein and it's fast. And
Yep.
sometimes I saute them and add herbs and cayenne pepper. Sometimes I put them with my eggs. Sometimes I put them on a salad. There's lots of things you can do with them.
Yes. And I'm going to add my favorite is with cottage cheese and fresh salsa. Lovely combination.
Yeah, and seafood is always a good option. So you don't have to go on a sardine fast to win at this game. But Laura's just found a cost-effective, convenient way of getting protein and seafood, and there's like seafood is nutrient dense. I've got your so you dropped to from 320 to 158 pounds in the recent DDF challenge. You keep on making it onto the leaderboard, which is absolutely amazing. I think you're now getting to a point where you're bottoming out and your body's going, this is as low as I want to go, which is fantastic. Your body fat dropped by 18.2%, which is massive. And then we were having chats about resistance training and getting stronger, and I just wanted to show people you're actually increasing your, well, we're going from August 2024 to, no, sorry, June 2024 to August
Oh,
2024.
that was January 8th to February 6th. That was the back when we were doing that challenge.
Sorry,
That was only a month
Aussie notation,
difference.
but you're actually gaining um, gaining lean mass, which is fantastic. And I suppose I wanted to comment that the more fat-free mass you've got, this is from all our data-driven fasting analysis, that the more you build lean mass, the more you can eat. So we don't want people to just waste away and get thin like Twiggy. We want them to be robust and resilient, which is what protein helps you do. And I love this chart. We often focus on weight or BMI. And what this shows is if you get a higher fat-free mass index, which is more muscle for your height and a lower body fat for your height, we live a lot longer. So it's not just about getting smaller, especially as we get older, because if you wither away and become weak and fall over and break something, then it's hard to recover from that. So we need to be robust and ideally lean. So what you're doing at 46, was it, is awesome. So yeah, that's exciting.
Can I throw another question in there?
Yeah.
All right. First of all, I like Stina's little comment was that she likes her sardines with kimchi. So I like that, Stina. I just got some kimchi and I'm going to try that. But Laura,
I'll get salads and just throw canned fish on it, whether it be sardines or tuna or salmon, and just makes
I
it
like
really
tuna and
easy.
sardines together. Yeah.
There,
Mm.
they're good with the seaweed also, like the
Mm.
the sheets of seaweed. They're good with
Ah,
that.
good to
Good
know.
Yeah,
hack.
and kimchi.
So Amanda says, your skin looks great. Did you have any issues with loose skin? Fasting often talks about autophagy and helping with loose skin, but DDF doesn't have that focus. The skin on the arms and abdomen is the worst. So can you talk about your skin?
You do look radiant.
Well, I have excess abdominal skin and arm and inner thigh. But other than that, pretty much there's not I don't have a lot anywhere else. It's mostly the abdominal area,
Well, you have had 5 kids too.
right?
And one grandchild.
Well, I
That's
didn't have
great.
to do that one.
One of the best things about
You,
grandchildren, right?
yeah, just feed them and give them back. But to comment on the loose skin autophagy thing, I think it depends on how long you let it go and how big you are as to how hard it is to get rid of the skin. I think
And
some
your
people,
age.
yeah, Laura?
The age affects it. Also, how much your collagen and stuff, and whether you're getting enough zinc and vitamin C and collagen and copper in your diet, those things are really important. Also, how long and how fast. The faster you lose the weight, the more excess skin. If
Mm,
it's over a period of time, like mine's been since 2012,
mm,
it it has time to heal and repair, where people who have a lot of times weight loss surgery and they lose that weight like 100 pounds in a year or 6 months, or they have excess that it just because it happens so quickly.
yeah. I suppose the other thing to add to that is that it depends what you're hanging that skin over. If you lose fat and muscle and you got a big skin hanging over no muscle, you're gonna not look great. But if you build the muscle, build strength, get the protein, which helps with satiety and the weight loss, you look, you've got a much better chance of not having looking like you're in a baggy suit. Your skin is gonna look after itself, especially as Laura said, if you're getting all the nutrients. And I don't know exactly which nutrients, but we focus on nutrient density in the macros and micros classes that will help your vitality in your skin and everything else at the same time.
So, Marty,
Yo,
since it kind of came up, with the whole fasting and autophagy and all that good stuff, where are you when it comes to fasting? Because I know Laura and I we're tweaking around with it a little bit.
yeah.
But where do you lie in that camp?
I suppose data-driven fasting is not really fasting. It was sort of designed to help people who uh, just were failing with extended fasting and, not eating for a week and then refeeding with keto because of the belief that it didn't spike insulin. So they're, refeeding on really high fat foods, losing muscle, overeating because their hunger and satiety are so blown out. So what data-driven fasting does, it just uses your glucose as a guide to feed yourself when you need it. So it tells you what you need, when you need it, how often, without pushing you to go so long that you can't get the protein and nutrients you need over the long term. And it teaches you about true hunger, true satiety. And I think extended fasting, I just don't see many people who got really healthy and robust and strong and are thriving after extended fasting. They just get weaker, maybe smaller until they go, I just can't do this anymore. And they find themselves feeling like a guilty failure because they can't stop eating. But that's their body because that's your survival instincts. And when it comes to a fight to the death, especially in our modern environment where we've got unlimited food around, your body's always going to win. And that's a good thing because we don't want to die. So you're just telling your body that there's a famine, and if you come across food, you can't stop eating. And yeah, that makes me sad. So DDF is really designed to give people an escape hatch from that. How'd it go, Ren? Did that rant
Well, can
hit the
I can
spot?
I can I add just a little bit to that?
Sure.
What do you think about like a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast?
Yeah. I think occasionally it's not going to kill you, but you need to get enough protein and nutrients every day. And if you have one meal a day or one meal every second day, you just can't get enough protein and nutrients in those singular meals because you're not gonna go for the chicken breast and broccoli and egg whites after you haven't eaten for a week, are you? You're gonna go for the peanut butter and the nuts and the chocolate by default, and you're not going to be able to stop eating at that point. So,
Okay.
yeah, just teaching people to eat regularly. And I'm going to shut up and let Laura speak. Yeah. What's your experience, Laura?
He knows my weakness is peanuts and chocolate.
Peanut butter is my kryptonite.
No, that's good. It's a question that I've had for quite some time, and like because there's so much information out there about it and about it being
Mm,
good for you, and then on the other side of it is it's not good for you. It's good for women. No, it's not good for women. It's just like um, weeding through the mess of it is just difficult. But it sounds to me like you're basically saying your protein and nutrients every day trumps it.
totally. Laura, did you have anything to add to that before I keep ranting?
I've done a few fasts and I've done different things. I really think that you really have to listen to your own body. And if you've been doing this long enough and you've been getting really high proteins, once a month or something like that, it's not going to hurt you for sure. I mean, you've got plenty of stored fuel. I mean, as long as you're not, you know, pushing on like you're too thin or something like that,
Mm,
I don't see it harming.
yeah. Yeah, but if you start to lose lean mass and strength, then
Yeah.
that's not a good long-term outcome. And the thing about autophagy, we study C. elegans worms, which are teeny little things, and say if we starve them, they live longer. And then we look at mice and say if we starve them for 36 hours, they seem to do better. But the fact is that, one mouse day is 40 human days. So if we go, okay, we're going to fast for 72 hours times 40 days, that's a really long time of not eating to get the theoretical effect that we saw in mice in Volta Longo's lab. I just don't think we know much about autophagy in humans. So being lighter, leaner is going to be is going to be much better than trying to get some magic autophagy by not eating. Cool. How did we go, Ren?
Good. We're good with the chat as well.
Just muting um, speaker. Go back to speaker. I suppose another question I had
Except
is
for Ninja Bob is now in here.
Ninja Bob. Did you have a question, Ninja Bob?
Well, Bob, you want to talk about it?
No, I just put the comment. Somebody was asking about Flab. Marty's
Mm.
got pictures and a history and all that of a previous member, Mila, who lost an
Yeah.
absolute ton of weight, and then she went in for surgery and all that.
Yeah. Some people do benefit from the weight loss surgery. So the skin removal surgery after massive weight loss, but
But it looked incredibly painful. Okay.
yeah,
Definitely.
no operation is without challenges. I suppose one of the things that we find, Laura, is people often push themselves too hard, too fast in DDF. You've definitely got a competitive edge to what you do, which is great. You're numbers driven. But this whole concept of minimum effective dose and not pushing too hard to the point you fall off the edge, because like DDF is 30 days. A lot of people don't make it through the 30 days. So what's your how do you make sure you don't push so hard that your body rebels and you give up? What was that mind game that went and kind of pushed just enough without pushing myself to breaking point in terms of the minimum effective dose? I think we've got some background audio. Let me see if I can
Not
find
sure.
that.
Like it was, the first few times I did the challenges, it seemed like it was overwhelming because I was learning all what needed to be done when. After that, it really wasn't that. It was just a matter of testing and logging the numbers. So there really wasn't a lot of excess work there. And I could judge, based on how much and what I ate as to whether my number was going to be ready for me to eat my next meal. And I primarily did my 3 meals a day. Didn't really sway from that much.
Mm,
I could adjust, I could adjust the amounts and quantity to make it work.
yeah. And that's where it becomes really cool is that you can still eat 2 or 3 meals a day without that extended fasting, trying to get this magic autophagy by using a glucose as a guide to go, how much do I need to eat? Is my glucose low? I'll eat normally. If it's a bit above trigger, you can go, I'm going to eat a little bit less and make that even more protein focused. So at that point, it turns into a protein sparing modified fast type of thing, but only when your glucose is above trigger and you know you've got plenty of energy on board. So I think that's a really powerful thing that we're going to eat 2 or 3 meals a day. DDF eliminates the snacks because, am I hungry? Am I hungry enough to test my glucose? Oh, okay, I might skip that snack, or you test and you're above trigger, and yeah, I need to skip that snack because I'm above trigger. So it actually breeds a discipline of regular eating tied in with your circadian rhythm, which I think is really cool. Um, I suppose another question is, transitioning to maintenance, how has that been? It's a bit of a mindset shift from I'm 320, getting down to halving your weight and then going, that's enough. Now I'm just maintaining. I'm going to switch that mindset from now I'm focusing on living a healthy, robust life and being a healthy person rather than a big person who needs to lose weight. What's that transition been like? I think you're still working through that to some extent.
Well, with with maintenance type stuff, I really don't know that I'm necessarily there yet. I'm still above my ideal weight to some degree, and I don't think I'm quite there yet. And I have shifted to, there are a few days a week now that I only do 2 meals. I will push breakfast back some or push my meals closer together. So basically, I'm compressing the eating window some. So it really just, it depends on the day.
Mm,
It truly does. So some days, breakfast will be closer to 9 o'clock instead. And then um, if I'm at trigger by noon, I'll have a small lunch, but it's always got the protein.
mm,
And then, an early dinner. And I'm usually done with dinner I like to be done by 6 p.m.
mm. And
Can
you're
you
getting
give an
towards
example of like what your meals are in a day?
sardines in the car park.
What's a
That's
typical
all I
recipe,
heard.
Laura?
So yeah, it changes. It changes just depending on what I have available at the time. And so today for breakfast, I had a zucchini raw with salt and eggs and a container, a can of oysters. So that was breakfast, and plenty of protein there. And
Mm,
then lunch was a can of mussels, and because we were getting ready to do the Zoom, I had a kefir smoothie with cranberries, pomegranate, uh, and whey protein, strawberry whey protein in there. So I just chugged it. So I didn't have any. I could have thrown some frozen okra in there, and I didn't.
mm.
But I should have, but I didn't. So there wasn't any vegetables where I should have had some vegetables, but I will make up for that with dinner.
And the vegetables, like some people come in from a carnivore approach, and carnivore can be really beneficial because it gives you a ton of protein. But like the protein and the low energy density, nutrient dense veggies, I think it's a really nice complementary approach that it's like protein, meat, seafood, dairy, and your veggies, which are low energy density, which give you the other nutrients that are satiating, that the pure protein foods don't give you. So I like that you're getting that balance. You know you need your veggies as well as the protein.
We have a couple of questions, Marty.
Yeah, do you want to run through those?
Good,
That'd be good. They're
if
good
this is a good time
questions.
for that. I think this first one, Amanda asks, were there times when you couldn't eat and only ended up with 2 meals? And I think you basically kind of answered that. But Leslie says, I like to eat breakfast and I have to eat lunch at work at 12 p.m. by default. I also eat dinner with my husband after work. I think this is a very big standard here that a lot of people run up against. Which would be the flexible meal that I would take a glucose measurement for? So she eats breakfast, she has to eat lunch at 12, and then dinner with her husband after work. What would be the flexible meal that I would take a
Yeah,
glucose?
in the DDF challenges, we talk about Bob loves to go off about day 10, Bob's favorite day 10 main meal concept that in day 10, after we've got you into the habit of waiting for your trigger, we then lock in 1 meal a day. For a lot of people, it's their first meal with breakfast or a post-workout meal. They might do some exercise in the morning and then have a robust protein-focused meal first up. And then the other two, meal 2, meal 3, meal 4, if applicable, would be guided by, is my glucose below trigger? So yeah, for you who wants to lock in dinner with husband, potentially, Leslie, that would be your one main meal, and then the others would be guided by your glucose trigger. Did you end up using a main meal concept, Laura?
Not not usually, because thankfully I could get my trigger back down pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I started it probably in the 90s when I very first started doing the challenges and stuff. I wasn't doing that. I started using the DDF app before the
Mm,
doing challenges.
mm,
And I was in the 90s on a regular basis and upper 80s. And now I'm in the 70s the majority of
mm.
the time. So I get back to, you know, that whole concept of not raising your glucose more than the 30 points is huge.
Mm.
So if you are testing and you're getting higher than 30 points from that meal, you need to really think about what you're eating
Yeah.
and maybe either eat less or eat healthier
Yeah.
stuff.
More protein focused,
Something's
more
not
nutrient
working in your
dense.
system right to counteract the glucose spikes.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah, I
and
think
we've
that.
also,
Go on, Rand.
go ahead, Marty.
I think that's really profound, that iterative process of going, okay, my glucose spiked a lot. Did I eat too much? I had to wait too long. Did I eat too much fat with that meal? How can I improve next time? And it's that iterative process that if you take the time to go, okay, I'm going to learn from this process. The data doesn't lie. I'm not going to ignore the data. I'm going to learn from it and just iterate and go, okay, next meal, I'm going to have a slightly smaller meal. I'm going to make it more protein focused. And pretty soon you dial in your macros and your calories without ever having to track them.
And I think that
Yes.
basically goes directly into what Roki was asking. She says, if someone has lots of energy on board, me, I find I can go and go and go and not reach the trigger, and it's impossible to eat more than once a day. What then? And I
Yeah, I
think that's
suppose.
pretty much what you were.
Yeah, but if you each challenge, we say start baselining again. So you should reset your trigger and then work down from there. So if you're eating normally 2 or 3 meals a day in baselining, then it'll slowly get a little bit harder. So you shouldn't get to 1 meal a day too soon. And if you're at 1 meal a day, then it's how much am I eating in that 1 meal a day? Can I dial that back a little bit? And then you'll reach trigger sooner.
Is there a place where if you're eating too much, you're eating 1 meal a day, you're trying to get a certain amount of protein. So you're eating too much at one time,
Yep.
It's
basically.
hard. It is
Yeah.
hard to get enough protein. There's a lot of people that do that OMAD and 1 meal a day thing, and they will push that, but it is hard to get enough protein in one
Yep.
setting. But I saw one approach today where they ate like an appetizer at 4:30 and then they ate a meal at 6 and then they had a dessert at like like a half an hour after that or something. And it was like, okay, so it was one meal a day, but to me, it looked more like three small meals.
Yeah.
So,
And DDF tends to guide people to have, okay, I'm going to have one meal, I'm fueling up, and then 12 hours later, you have another meal or maybe three meals in the day, and you're just getting enough energy to get through the morning and then enough energy to get through your sleep and rinse, repeat, learn from the process.
Yeah, and Leslie says, she says, I'm just afraid of getting hangry. But Laura, I think you've spoken to this. When you eat that protein, I don't know about you, but I just don't feel hungry
Yeah.
nearly like I ever did on any other diet I've ever been on.
and a tip, if you get hangry, have something with you. Put some
Yeah.
beef sticks in your purse, some nuts, something protein that's packaged that you can have and pull out. And if you really are hungry and you can't make it to the next whatever, have
Yeah.
protein.
Yeah.
Sardines, lots of sardines.
Well, Laura and I in our group, we talk a lot about this often, and we've kind of come to this terminology, this place where if I'm going to eat, I have to have 30 grams of protein.
Yeah.
I can't have that cookie unless I'm having 30 grams of protein.
Yeah.
I can't have whatever that is unless I'm having, and keeping that mindset of it's got to go with 30 grams of protein at least makes a big difference before you put anything else in your mouth.
Yep. Are you eating because you're really hungry, or are you eating because of whatever other reasons are out there? Just the hand to mouth for me sometimes, especially around Christmas time. I was like, just constant. I'm like, no, I got to stop this because I need to get busy doing something else because I can't just keep eating.
Yeah. Marty, a couple of people are asking, I'm trying to decide if I should rebaseline or just come off of maintenance as I start the next DDF. What factors should I consider in that decision? Another one says, sounds like I should start over. Is that what rebaselining means?
Yeah,
Can you
we've got a
talk
new
a little bit
challenge
about
starting
that?
on the 4th of January, so just a few days away. So at the start of each challenge, we highly recommend people take that 3 days to re-baseline to find their new glucose trigger, and then it's locked into their metabolism, especially after Christmas when you're probably filled up your fat and glucose fuel tank and you'll need to drain that. So if you try to go back to where you were before, it won't be calibrated to the person you are now versus the person you were before. And just a shout out for the infographics we've got in the group on what 30 grams of protein looks like and how much that is. And we've got a whole bunch of protein focused infographics that Bob has harassed me to do over the years, and we're getting there, Bob. I suppose the to start to wrap up,
Well done. Well done.
thanks, Jedi Bob. Your husband has been getting into it, I think, slowly, Laura. Like his post-meal glucose got some great results, and his glucose went from 299 to 230. How's this process impacting your family and your friends around you? Are they listening? Are they paying attention? Or are they still slow to get on board?
Well, I mean, my younger kids are pretty good about eating healthy and stuff. The older ones, not quite yet. They're not, they're learning. Um, they don't, I think they're resistant to it. They just, they drag their feet. They don't want it. They don't want to. And, um, just that making things healthier. I mean, they eat what's for dinner,
Yeah,
they eat what's provided for them, and that, they're getting benefits from that.
yeah.
Um,
But
Laura's two younger children, they have never had sugar. Is that correct, Laura?
right. Yeah. The the
I think
the
that's
the two
amazing.
younger ones have not had any at all ever. Um, they're 5 and 7, and they've never had any type of sugar type stuff. I mean, they've had some, white bread, stuff like that, just not candy sugar, like processed sugar. They've not had any of that in their
you're going to be breeding a whole new species of human at that rate. If you know,
And
these
they eat
kids are going to be so different.
sardines.
They're like sardines, Laura.
Yes, they're different.
That's great. There's that experiment where they gave newly weaned kids in an orphanage. It was a weird little experiment, but I think 80 years ago, access to 30 different foods, and they just went around, and the kid who had rickets went with the I think it was sardines or something that gave them the vitamin B3 and D that once he'd recovered from the rickets, he was fine and stopped being interested in those foods. So it's really powerful to give kids access mainly to nutrient-dense foods and let them understand the appetite and listen to their appetite and show them what real food tastes like. And then they go out in the big world to these parties and then go, yeah, that was interesting, but it's not real food. Like that's what our kids, we just give our kids a lot of nutritious, we invest in quality food at home. And then they go out and go, yeah, it was sort of recreational food, but I'm not that interested in that food. It doesn't taste real.
Laura, if there was one or two pieces of advice you would give someone from your journey, what might they be? Or what would you give yourself for advice if you could have, started on a piece of this sooner?
Right. Well, prioritize protein. That would be my number one. Like, do not get less than 100 grams of protein. When I started, I was up there in the 150, 160
Yeah.
grams of protein. Prioritize protein, nutrients, including like veggies and fruit. Cut out ultra processed foods. Keep an open mind about foods. Try
Mm,
new foods. And one of the biggest things is breakfast can be any food. You don't, you know, quit thinking about cereal and
yeah.
bread and, pancakes, waffles, all this stuff. That is not a healthy
Not
breakfast.
food.
That is not, stop thinking. I mean, just because commercials have brainwashed us to think that we need to eat cereal for breakfast. I mean, what? You know, breakfast can be leftovers, breakfast can be sardines, breakfast can be vegetables. It can be anything that you want
Mm,
it to be. It doesn't, I mean, it's fueling our body. It's not what the mainstream wants, whatever they're making profit on, the cereals and the different boxed mixes and the syrups and all the things. That's, you know, I mean, you talk about doing this on a budget because I did this on a budget
mm,
and it's about normalizing the real foods.
mm.
Quit buying, you don't have to buy those processed. I mean, if you stop buying certain stuff, then you have money for the other
Mm,
real stuff.
mm. And you're going to be eating less overall, so you can invest in higher quality food. And that have you found breakfast is actually like if you make it a real meal is actually the most important meal of the day. That's what we find a lot as people who start their day with a robust dose of protein earlier in the day. It doesn't have to be at 6 a.m. It could be at 10 or whatever. But if people who get plenty of protein first up, they're not raiding the pantry at 11 p.m. Uh,
Right. Yeah. It definitely. I mean, that was one of my biggest things was just wanting to eat in the evenings and snack in the evenings, even too close to bed and stuff. I mean,
mm,
it's just like I could not tell myself no and push
mm,
past that. It wasn't a willpower thing. It was
yeah.
it was just because I wasn't now I know I wasn't getting enough protein and stuff. Now I don't
Earlier
have
in the day.
that chatter back here
Yeah.
anymore. So
Yeah.
thankful for that.
Yeah, that's always the case. It's like, how do I stop snacking at night? Well, what did you eat first up? If you manage that, get all the nutrients you need, then your body can go, okay, I need a little bit more energy, but I don't need to be face first in the whole can of Pringles or whatever that you'll never stop eating.
And our body with our insulin, we're more insulin sensitive in the morning and in the afternoon than we are in the evenings.
Yep.
So it's more important to not eat in as much in the evenings and before
Mm,
bed or well, it depends on if you work nights or if you have a different shift or whatever, then
yep.
it's going to be different for you. But before we sleep, we need to empty out our stuff,
Yeah.
because that's the important part, is that while we sleep, our body heals, and we cannot get into a true sleep. If
Yeah.
we still have fuel in our system before we go to bed, we may pass out and be in a slumber, but we're not getting sleep that's going to benefit us. We're
Mm.
not going to wake up, you know, if our body has to digest while we're sleeping, it's not going to heal. It's not going to empty out as much of the glucose that's sitting there, and you're going to wake up with a higher insulin, higher fasting insulin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been fascinating. A lot of people recently have been tracking their sleep overnight and waking heart rate. And with DDF, because they're not metabolizing so much energy overnight, their waking heart rate is actually lower and their heart rate variability is higher. So yeah, just not having all that energy your body's trying to push into storage overnight, you sort of shift your calories to earlier in the day, use them during the day, have what you need at night, and you're not trying to store all that, working overtime to store that. So you're actually using it if you have a protein energy focused breakfast. So this has been really fun. Any other questions from the live audience? Thank you so much for joining. Before we sign off, anybody want to ask Laura any final questions?
Well, Leslie, I think we got the point across to Leslie because she says that's been my problem. Now I know I got to eat more protein. But
Yeah.
I just want to say too that because it came up when you guys were just talking about it, the food noise thing. Like Laura, you were talking about the food noise at night, and that's been a big question, a big thing that's come up with the whole GLP-1. It
Yeah.
quiets my food noise. Well, so does protein, people.
Yeah. And what could possibly go wrong if we turn off our healthy appetite for nutrients and don't get those nutrients over the long term? That's what scares me. Not only do you can't eat as much protein because it's too satiating, but you're not getting all the other vitamins and minerals. You're just eating, instead of 10 muffins a day, you're eating 4 muffins a day or whatever. People, I don't see a lot of people improving what they eat when they have the GLP-1 agonist
So
injection. So,
I just wanted to chime in just a teeny bit, because there was one little question that we skipped over just a tiny bit. And that was the big why. Because Marty's always asking, well, what's your big why? Why? What changed in you, and what was your why on why you wanted this? What caused you to want this enough for it to work for you?
that's
And
so
I think, okay,
important.
my big why. Okay, so seeing my unhealthy family members and watching them all pass on my dad's side,
Mm,
and seeing my dad pass, and the years that he was metabolically unhealthy for decades. I don't want that. And I want to put it into that. And I don't want my children seeing me in the condition my grandmother was in, and the condition that my dad and his sisters were in, the pain, the suffering. I don't want that.
mm.
I don't want them to see that. And I don't want them to have to live like that. So it's breaking those chains, basically,
Wow.
so that they don't have to deal with my health issues the way that, and not have them around, because there's not anyone really on my dad's side around anymore. So
Mm.
that's just really important.
That's really powerful. And I think a lot of people, a lot of women want to serve their family and put themselves last. But it's really exciting to see mothers putting themselves first so they can serve their family more now, more strongly, more powerfully, but not be a liability later on and be around to be an awesome grandmother and maybe be a great grandmother and to help the family for the long term rather than being a burden that, you know, they don't, you're not contributing anymore. So that's really powerful. We've got lots of great comments. That's powerful. Harry wants to know what attire do you recommend for parking lot dining for sardines?
Jeans and a t-shirt.
Harry's great. He's hilarious. Um, Thank you so much, everyone. This has been so fun, and thank you, Laura. I've been touched, and it's great to meet you after 2 years of interacting and seeing
Well,
your
thank
journey
you for
to
the
hear it.
program and thank you for all this. And I want to say thank you. I'm sure Lori will catch up and watch the replay. If yeah, I'm thankful for Lori for you know, introducing me to the program and everything and getting us going on it and all the Marco Polo people, everybody. I'm thankful for all them and it's it's been amazing. It really truly has. And what other choice did I have? My other choice was to just accept my failures and not keep trying, right?
Yeah. Glad you found us. It's been a thrill to watch your journey and just heartwarming to see people put the theory into practice and smash it over the long term. And that's the thing. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if you just trust the process and keep chipping away, don't doubt it, and don't try too hard to the point that you break. You'll get there. And we've got a community
Well,
to support you.
if you have a stumble, you just get, just you just get back up and do it
Yeah.
again. I mean, life's a journey. We're not, we're not gonna anybody gonna get to the finish line is not where we want to be really in this journey. We just want to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and you want to extend the finish line out as long as possible to be vibrant and run for as long as possible. So yeah.
Laura, I want to make sure you hear these little comments. Harry says, very inspiring. Thanks, Laura. Patty says, thanks, Laura. You are an inspiration. Stina says, thanks and Happy New Year, all. And Judy, what a testimony, Laura. So thank you so much.
Very exciting.
So, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, and we've got a challenge starting 4th of January, start the new year, dial things in after Christmas, and we've got an amazing community. This community is on fire, and the thing that brings me the most joy is seeing people implement it and help each other. People like Laura who've done it and are in here eager to help other people follow in their footsteps. So that's a thrill. So yeah, thank you so much, Laura, for doing this. It's been a thrill. You've done great, and yeah, happy New Year, and look forward to an amazing 2025. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Next time we'll have a normal Ask Us Anything interactive, so you can come in and ask lots of questions. And then the week after, we've got Mike Fitzpatrick, who's a type 1 mate who did macros, and he joined the first Ask Us Anything, and everyone went, who the hell is he? He looks jacked, and we want to follow in his
Yes,
footsteps. So
I'm inspired. I'm inspired by him. He's really got me on that. I definitely pushed me to do some exercise stuff and really
yeah. A
get
lot of the
started.
people in the live went, "What's he doing? I want some of that." So we'll go through, what does Mike do? I'll have what he's having, and we can unpack that formula. So
I'm
thanks,
impressed
everyone.
by the amount of protein he gets. That's
415 grams a day, average over a year. Not dying yet. Anyway, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. This has been a hoot. Thank you. Bye.